So the first new play for today made by Vertigo Films is Simon Warne and Lydia Marchant's Never Too Late. Now, I'd say this is, in general TV terms, passable enough confection. Whether it's the venerable play for today, Strand, is another question entirely. I mean, I've seen all 264 of them that exist, say, so I'm in a reasonable position to assess and judge that. It's a cheery mainstream comedy leaning closer to the world of a comedic soap opera than to the observational humanism of original plays for today, like Brian Clark's A Follower for Emily, which you can see there at the top left, directed by Alan Clark, or the urgent social commentary of Waterloo Sunset, 1979, directed by Richard Eyre, written by Barry Keefe. Now this is designed with a very specific audience in mind, I think, Never Too Late, and it trades on a fond, boisterous nostalgia for the 1960s and 70s, resulting in a tone that's definitely more broad rather than sophisticated. I think that this is aiming, at an older audience wanting something familiar and not too demanding. And it would appeal to fans of cosier TV drama, definitely. So I was okay with it, but it didn't really blow me away. And we have elderly protagonists here, very unlike, say, the elderly protagonists who we see in old people's homes in original series plays for today, like the couple I mentioned and Peter Ransley's Kate the Good Neighbour from 1980 as well. I mean, A Follower for Emily is just a beautiful play. It's lovely in how it observes everyday life and really is about the people, and the people feel compelling and recognisable human beings in it. And it's got great focus on the institution of a local authority-run care home. It's complex and open-ended, and it's upbeat, but it's very subtly upbeat. Whereas Never Too Late, say, with its chirpy accordion and Wesley Bright's retro soul approximations, you hear a few of his songs on there, evoked a sort of quirky 1960s nostalgia. Ian Livingstone's underscore, for me, felt overly leading, dominantly steering our responses rather than trusting the material. It was comedy for the belly, not the brain, telling a clear, lightly amusing story. I mean, I never liked music being omnipresent and always there, like patronisingly telling you how to feel. And this did sadly fall into that bracket, whereas A Follower for Emily doesn't have any composed music at all. Never Too Late did feel like one of those comedy episodes of Doctors, the BBC One daytime medical drama soap. So watchable, yes, definitely, but too broad, too silly. Doctors could manage some great episodes, particularly when they got away from flexi-narrative approach of soap operas and had, like, say, a self-contained two-hander like Three Consultations at a Funeral, written by Philip Ralph, broadcast in May 2021, where you've got Dido Miles as doctor and Lucy Benjamin's patient, in a brilliant storyline about coercive control in marriage and the medical impact of that. It's a brilliant performances, brilliant writing there. So Doctors can be great, potentially, but I think this was more towards like the worst side of Doctors, sadly. In terms of acting, Never Too Late featured engaging, heightened performances from old-timers, Anita Dobson and Nigel Havers, returning to play for today after 43 years. These performances here, I think, grabbed attention without conveying subtle depths. I mean, the script wasn't really asking for that. But, I mean, Dobson certainly has charisma and interprets the material well for what it is. It does a very good performance, I would say. I think Michael Fenton-Stevens, who you can see there in the top right, is very entertaining as well. And that scene did make me laugh with, I think it's the Blue Danube playing, and it was all done in slow motion. It was, again, broad, but that was, for me, the funniest scene there. Havers he's coasting to a degree, definitely. I wouldn't say Tracy Ann Oberman or Nina Wadia made much of a great impression. And when it comes to like the socio-political import and significance, which I think has got to be a major thing when you're looking at Play for Today, because it so often was, there was an inbuilt focus on topicality, focusing on stuff that was in the news, bringing to audiences the news that isn't usually passed on, as John McGrath said, bringing like an alternative perspective to the mainstream BBC One news. Play for Today did. I think that this, in this sense, Never Too Late really lacks it entirely. It doesn't have a socio-political focus to it. It presented a retirement village as a site of like circumscribed adventure and morale-boosting fantasy, diverging from the complex portraits of old age in the original Play for Today that I've mentioned. And indeed, most damningly, you could say, although understandably, in terms of the type of TV that this is aiming to be, there's an avoidance of the crisis in adult social care, which sort of epitomises steering away from anything difficult or troubling. How did it go down with audiences and critics? Well, in terms of audiences, it did rather well, really. It's gained 897,000 viewers in terms of just the overnight ratings. You know, that'll go up considerably with people watching it on catch-up and streaming it later and everything. So that was a 7.3% audience share, which is up from 6.4%, which that slot generally gets. So they'll be reasonably pleased with that, Channel 5. And I do think that choosing this one first was a blunt commercial decision to get it up first with Havers and Dobson and play on their stardom, really, and get them involved in a big publicity drive beforehand. And it paid off in terms of bringing viewers to this new Play for Today, clearly. It beat even the Taskmaster finale, which got 821,000 viewers overnight. And it was significantly up on the trial, Mark Burt's single drama, which it was almost a sort of pilot for this new Play for Today that was on in May this year on Channel 5. Had the excellent Saoirse Monica Jackson from Derry Girls starring in it. That reached 355,000 viewers with only a 2.8% share. So clearly the Play for Today name and the bigger publicity push paid off here. In terms of critics, well, it was panned, to be honest. It was widely reviewed, like virtually all of the broadsheets were covering it. So Rachel Aroesti, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, described it as a banal pantomime, as you can see there. And understandably, a lot of the critics were basically saying it didn't live up to what Play for Today was, or indeed should be today. And I think that was understandable, and I broadly agree with them that this was overly shallow and overly superficial. There were two very positive reviews, though, both of them in the Daily Mail, so Christopher Stevens and Catherine Flett. And perhaps that, in a way, tells a key story, that it was chiming with TV critics and viewers who did want something cosy and unchallenging. It certainly isn't my vision of Play for Today. Professor John Cook, who I was speaking to about this, said that sadly it's a problem with a lot of modern TV today is that it isn't meant to be watched intently, and he put Never Too Late into that category and said that it can't operate in the sphere of reference of what we call Play for Today. I think you have to reflect overall that you're not going to like them all. I mean, there was performances and moments that I did enjoy in this, but I wouldn't say overall I thought this was worthy of the Play for Today name. But we're not going to like them all, and they're not all going to be for one particular type of viewer. But I think I'll end by contrasting it just with far lesser known Play for Today even than a follower for Emily, Wayne and Albert from 1983. This is written by David Hopkins, directed by Sarah Pia Anderson. She's from a theatre background, but has worked a lot in US television. Even directed an episode of Gilmore Girls in the 2000s. But Wayne and Albert is, I think, again, a really good, at times light, at times very melancholy play that sort of reminds me of great children's TV drama in the era where you had lots of Bernard Ashley adaptations and things like that. And this is 1983, and this is mostly a two-hander, not entirely though. A few more characters appear in the pub scene that you can see there at the bottom. You've got Arthur English and Keith Jane there, and you've got portrayals of youth through the Jane character and old age through Arthur English. You've got how they battle and eventually find an understanding. So it's very sort of humanist in its resolution and how it builds and develops as a drama. It's got funny moments. It's got a focus on like the country and the city, with Jane being a streetwise London kid transplanted to the country. And you've got really significant theme of grief here. I mean, it's a very, very moving play, and I think it's Hopkins' best out of 3 plays for today that he did. Personally, I think it's really underrated play. We don't get that with Never Too Late, sadly. It's just too superficial. I think you never know quite what you're going to get with Play for Today, week by week. Well, you've got to keep trying week by week, trying out different self-contained stories. Now, there's just one more thing. During my PhD, I was very interested to find out these reaction index percentage scores that were allocated to each Play for Today by a rotating panel of viewers representative of the people around the country who'd watched Play for Today. I haven't been able to find any such figures for the new Play for Today yet, although they may well exist, but they don't tend to be widely published. So Never Too Late, I've came up with a score combining in an unweighted way the Internet Movie Database and Letterboxd ratings so far for it. In percentage terms, 56.6 so far. My own score for it would be, I would say, around 46. The average for 1970 to 1984 plays for today was 59.